Hi everybody, this is Craig Tanner for The Mindful Eye and the Daily Critique. Today's image was created by Bill. Bill recently created this image on my Death Valley National Park workshop. Bill was working with a Canon 40D, an effective focal length of 50 millimeters, and the exposure trio is ISO 200, f8, and 1/90th of a second. I like the simplicity of this image. Black and white has pushed it in a direction that's made it even more simple. I think black and white's a great choice here. To me, this is an image that's about the intrinsic quality of what we're looking at, or qualities, as much as it is about the thing itself. When I look at this image, I get a real strong sense of things like shape and quality of line and texture. Black and white can be great for subject matter like this. Another thing that I really enjoy about the image is the quality of this line, and the concept of leading line. This really helps to move me through the frame, and all of this energy is very vertical, and then that gets juxtaposed with a series of lines that move on the x-axis that really start to slow me down as I come to the top part of the image. The other thing that I really like about this image is that, to me, this area down in here, if not this area, just right in here, is the main subject. I'm being led out to this real high contrast, very high energy point. And I love this as a subject matter. I've already talked about quality of line and dynamic shape. To me, this is a classic example of a subject that on the surface is one thing. It's just a pool of water, or pools of water sitting on a salt pan in the desert. But at another level of reality, these pools of water suggest something that is archetypal. Many people that look at this will get the sense of hands or a claw. They'll see other things in this, and I talk about archetypes a lot, because subject matter that can at one time both be something literal on the surface, but can start to suggest either a universal symbol or something that we experience that's universal, connected to being a human being. It starts to multiply the meaning of the image. The image can start to resonate on a lot deeper level. I really enjoy this image for the fact that this subject matter, to me, represents a couple of very profound things. One literal, one is a suggestion of something else within the literal nature of the subject. One of the things that I think about when I think about a perfect world variation for this shot is this space shape up here. I've been talking a lot lately about recognizing our main idea and understanding that as a matter of objective fact and natural law, there are some things in our composition that will have more weight because we place more emphasis on them in our environment. One of the things that we are heavily drawn to has an enormous amount of weight, either in our field of vision as we're experiencing reality, or we're looking at a photograph, a representation of reality, or areas of very high contrast. This line right here represents an area of very high contrast, one of the highest contrast areas of the image, and it's a very long line, so even if it's not quite as much contrast as this in terms of light and dark, it ends up having an enormous amount of weight because this line travels for a very long stretch through the image. And then in addition to that, the negative space shape up here above the mountains is very bright, and that is also very near the top of our list in terms of things that draw our eye. So my question about this space shape is it the main idea? And if it's not the main idea, then how is it working with one of the other main ideas, if not the main idea of the shot? My take on this image is that the most interesting things are down here, and that I don't need this negative space shape above the mountains to complete the image or send the message of the photograph. To me, this starts to compete with what's happening down here. If we crop that away, so let's just go ahead and do that, to me a couple of things will be true. One, it's going to simplify the image because we're going to lose a very high value subject that potentially is drawing our eye up and away from. It's a really beautiful archetypal subject in the lower part of the image. The other thing that happens when we lose that is that, for me, I start to feel more of a sense of balance from top to bottom in the image. Now I feel like I have a top and a bottom that are dark and simple, and that can help to contain the eye so that I spend more time in here And the other thing that it does is it makes this even more abstract to me. This starts off fairly abstract. When we get rid of the top of that mountain, we start to give the viewer the ability to experience this outside of connecting it to some specific place. And it also creates more of a mystery in terms of what is around this. We can see in a very subtle way that the flat area in the picture ends and there's some kind of elevation change and there's a wall here. But without going all the way up to the point to where that turns into something else, then the viewer can make up a story about what might be out in these areas of the image. And so much of the time the viewer's imagination is going to be much more powerful than anything we can include in the composition. One of the things that I might do now that the eye is contained more in this area of the image is bring up a little bit more detail, slow the eye down a little bit more. I might bring up a little bit of contrast in here. I might bring out a little bit of detail in these shadows. So let's just talk real quick about how we might do those things. When I want to increase contrast, particularly when I'm working in black and white, a lot of times I'll do a move that to begin with is very rough. Go to levels. I'm just going to use the black and white slider to, in a very dramatic way, increase the difference between light and dark. And you're seeing that in here now, and I'm really looking at this area where I want to do the work. I know that this is a gross adjustment overall, but I'm going to apply it locally by filling that mask with black. I'm going to go Command Delete on a Mac, Control Delete on a PC. I'm going to hit B for the brush tool, make sure my hardness on the brush is 0, and then I'm going to go to a very low opacity, and I've already gone there, 3%. And then I'm just going to paint, and when I paint I'm going to be increasing the contrast in those areas, brightening those subtle areas of salt that are sitting next to the water, the salt pan in a place called Cottonball Basin, Death Valley National Park. I might come back in here and do a little bit of the same thing too, just trying to bring some of these areas up and then also at the same time increase the contrast, which will add value to those ideas and add a little bit more visual interest to what initially was sort of more of a negative space around these finger-shaped pools of water. If I wanted to work in this area back here, I'd probably do that using curves. I'm going to go to curves because curves will allow me to get this tool right here, the target adjustment tool, really see where these pixels are. If I want to increase some contrast in here, first I would want to pull from the area, so that we see that area is right in there. I want to pull from near that area up to brighten, and then I would want to come right under that and pull down to darken so that I'm getting a contrast change in that area at the same time brightening it just a little bit. I know that's over the top, so I'm going to do the same thing. Fill the mask with black, go back to my brush, very low opacity. Just hit this in a few places in here to subtly bring up a little bit of detail. What that might do for the image, it's very, very subtle. So there is before and there's after, and I could keep pushing that a little bit. That might do for the image is just slow the eye down a little bit in there. One of the things about very dark areas is they initially have very low value, sort of the place that we go to last in a photograph. But if there's detail in the areas that are very dark, even though we may go there last, those areas can end up having an enormous amount of visual power, because if things are mysterious in shadows and we're interested in what's in there, we may physically get closer to the image. And the midtones and the bright areas, we don't need to do that. They really can't do that because we can sit back and see the detail in those areas. Here's where we started after the crop, and here's where we've ended up. Just some subtle changes. I want to go back to Bill's original composition. Let me resize this real quick so that we can see it. Really love what Bill has done here. I love the simplicity of his composition. I love the archetypal nature of the main subject. Beautiful space shapes, beautiful qualities of line, a real simple journey that I'm taking to get to this really fascinating area in the image. I want to say a big thank you to Bill and all the people who participated in our Death Valley National Park workshop. Hope to see you again very soon on another episode of the Daily Critique.